Hey, what's going on, Screen Peekers? We are back and we have a question for you. But first, I want to say we think hero shooters have a problem, not because they're bad games, but because we've spent the last decade trying to make the same game over and over again. Today, we are going to ask a simple question. Are hero shooters actually dead, or have developers just stopped innovating? All right, guys, we are here finally. We're not doing news videos. We're not doing a showcase video. We're doing something fun. This has been a long time in the making between Marco and I. But before we jump in, just want to do a round of quick intros and then housekeeping items. With me today, as you all know, he is, maybe you don't know, he is the #1 Marvel Rivals fan. He has every single Emma Frost skin. He plays Rogue for the Savage Land skin only. His name is Marco. What's going on, my friend?
Nothing much, man. You got me. I am a Frost main, and she's my girl. So anytime she got a new skin coming out this week, I'm buying it immediately.
There you go. And as you guys, this video, there might be a bit of yapping. There might be some debates going on. Marco and I might not agree or disagree on the same things, but that's what we're here to do. We want to just have these discussions, open your eyes about this genre, and yeah, we'll go from there. But first, some housekeeping items. If you're on YouTube or Spotify, drop a follow, drop a subscribe, drop a like if you enjoy this content. It would really help a lot. It means a lot to us. And we're just super excited to bring more content to you guys. But yeah, Marco, let's just first define the genre for the audience here, for the listeners, right? You know, I pulled a quick short snippet from Wikipedia on what a hero shooter is, and they say it's a subgenre of shooter games, or we were talking in our pre-show, it's a combat game which emphasize hero characters that have distinctive abilities and or weapons that are specific to them. And I think we even kind of went a little further and said that it has strong focus on teamwork and synergies and character variety, right?
Absolutely. I mean, like, no hero shooter could exist without the team, right? And I think the main focus of the game, yes, is the character abilities, but really is the objective-based gameplay and how characters and teammates have to synergize with each other. And you're kind of only as strong as your weakest link, I would say, in most of these games.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes the hero shooter genre so unique, right? I mean, when a game like, I know this is not a hero shooter, this is a MOBA, but like a game like League of Legends or Dota, right, which is so team oriented, but it geared more towards like the RTS crowd because it's like a top-down strategic type game. When the hero shooter subgenre first came out, it drew in like crowds of gamers because it was more casual by design, right? It's easier to just jump in. It's an FPS. Right, you can shoot, you can use swords, whatever type of hero shooter genre it is, you can just jump in and have fun. I think that's one of the main things going for this genre. Now,
yeah, the only thing I would add to that too is just and also real attachment to characters. I think this is one of the first genres too. Like, we had protagonists of video games long before, but when it comes to these games, people get really attached to the roles that they play and the characters around them.
yeah.
So I think that's also a very defining part of the genre.
Oh yeah, like that's how you get the iconic like Tracer and Spider-Man in Marvel Rivals, or like a Jet in Valorant, right? I mean, it's so cool to see how like these FPS games have evolved with time. I mean, prior to this, the games had only like classes, right? Like, oh, you're like a heavy class, or you're the scout class, whatever. But now it's evolved into like these unique not even classes, like unique characters that you become, and you can change the tides of battle. It's such a cool defining moment for this genre. But cool. Now that we've defined the genre for the listeners today, I wanted to talk about the golden era of hero shooters. Would you agree that the golden era was around 2016 when Overwatch came out?
I would say that's definitely when the floodgates opened, right? And we'll talk about this. I feel like every genre kind of has their obviously their pinnacle, their mecca, right? And I would argue for hero shooters that was definitely Overwatch, which came out May of 2016. And as developers saw the success of Overwatch, now granted, Overwatch wasn't the first. We'll talk about that as well. Like Battleborn came before it, Team Fortress 2, arguably almost 10 years prior,
Oh yeah.
right? Overwatch really is what kind of reckoned in this floodgate of hero shooters, much
Yep.
like other games before it. So I would say 2016 was definitely the floodgates, and sure the golden era when everybody was playing them, and then we'll talk about the history since then. But I think it died off a little up until more recent years. Arguably, Marvel Rivals is what kind of reinvigorated the genre somewhat.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I would even argue that Overwatch was what made it mainstream, right? Not a whole lot of people knew about Team Fortress 2. It was very much like you had to be diehard Steam fans or PC gamers to really play TF2. I know it then came to Xbox with the orange box, right? And then of course Battleborn, and that was like the big debate back then, right? It was like, oh, which was it, Battleborn or Overwatch, which would be the best? And obviously Overwatch prevailed. Now, I know we're not here to debate this, but I do have to ask, just because I know you're a big fan of this genre, are you a bigger Overwatch fan or a Marvel Rivals fan?
I gotta say, I am more of a Marvel Rivals fan nowadays. I've been playing
Ooh,
both,
okay.
and I play both every week. Marvel Rivals first came out in December of 24 and 2025, like I was playing probably 20 hours a week, if not more. I've died down a little bit, but yeah, if I had to choose one to continue playing, it's definitely Marvel Rivals.
Okay. Okay. And for you listeners, I will back up Marco's statement. He's a beast at this game. I mean, I play on PC and he plays on controller, and he's dominating like 45 kill games. I'm like, what? This is insane. Too bad the crossplay system does not allow him to carry me in rank, and we can only play quick play. So,
Come on, Eddies.
yeah, yeah,
Let the crossplay go into comp.
yeah.
Let it
Come on,
happen.
man. Like, let's come on. But okay, cool. Let's talk about the gold rush, right? We just talked about the golden era of this genre, right? Let's talk about the gold rush. This is where all these companies saw the success of Overwatch, and everybody, it's like every single developer was hopping on the bandwagon to create these different hero shooters, right? I mean, what the first one that comes to mind was Paladins, right? That was pretty popular. It's died down now. A lot of people called it like an Overwatch clone. And then you had games like I don't know.
Yeah, Gigantic in 2017, which I didn't play too much.
Yeah.
You also had the big, Cliff Bleszinski failure. Someone would say it was Lawbreakers, and everybody was, upset. Cliff Bleszinski, left the Gears franchise and spun off his own studio and made that game. And I personally never played Lawbreakers because I wasn't big into PC, but honestly, it seemed pretty cool for the time, but obviously that was a big failure. But yeah, Overwatch definitely people really want to ride those coattails,
Oh yeah.
and I think as good as Overwatch was and arguably still is, I do think you know again with many leaders in this genre. This is where people get upset with the genre, where like you're just getting this influx of people chasing cash and not really being innovative or doing something different, and that's where this trap and this mindset, which then leads to future failures, like we'll talk about later in recent years. Some of the more mainstream big failures that happen in the hero shooter genre.
No, for sure, and it for good or for bad, right? And we see this trend a lot even till this day, right? You look at extraction shooters, look at any genre that just becomes super popular. All of a sudden, companies will jump on the hype train and try to make a clone, or they try to do something, you know, a little different, but then it fails, and it becomes this whole like reason you see just a plethora of just terrible games, right?
Yep.
Um, so
That
yeah,
I'll have to say too that the problem has been exacerbated, and I think we're feeling it now more in the modern day of gaming than we used to, back in the early 2000s and early 2010s. Again, and it all comes back to the cost of development and how long these games are taking to make. If you think back to 2007, Call of Duty 4, one of the biggest games ever, right? Releases in November. By 2008, you had every game coming out with a multiplayer system that was very similar to Call of Duty but create a class. Even Halo eventually followed suit and basically copied the Call of Duty formula. Within a span of 1 to 3 years, you had all these Call of Duty clones. Gears of War came out 2006. Suddenly, you had this huge influx of cover-based shooters. Every game wanted a cover mechanic after the popularity of Gears of War, but we got it in such rapid succession. While it was still arguably copycats, it still felt somewhat fresh because it was within a small window. Now, with the popularity of things like Battle Royale and Fortnite, and PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, and now with hero shooters, extraction shooters, games take 6 to 7 years to make now. And so sometimes games are releasing and they're chasing trends from 5, 6, 7 years ago, and we say like, where are all these games? Like, what? Like, there's this huge influx, but these are ideas from years and years ago,
oh yeah.
and it's a much bigger problem today than it was, growing up.
I mean, look at it this way. Like, look at X Defiant, right? Using that as an example. Totally mediocre game got shut down by Ubisoft game, Ubisoft. uh, they were kind of riding on the coattails of hero shooters plus Siege, right? And look how that turned out. I mean, they spent a lot of money on that game. I mean, I don't even know how long that game was in development, but I'm sure it was a while. Um, and that just proves your point, man. I mean, when when a game becomes popular, there's an influx of these developers that will try to develop these games 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years down the making, and then finally it comes up and it's just terrible. It's half baked. It's not innovative. Like, why would I play X Defiant if I can play Overwatch, a game that's already established, right? A hero shooter established and more polished and everything, right? So
Yeah, I will say, and maybe like the debate now, but maybe we could get into it too. Like, I think the hard part though is it's a double-edged sword when it comes to games like an X Defiant, or again we'll talk about their recent games in the hero shooter genre, Concord, High Guard, etc. I'm on the side of the opinion I am glad in a sense that people do try to challenge the front runner and the leader. Now, I would argue they have to do something innovative and different in order to be successful to challenge. But in the case of like an X Defiant, right? I would argue no one has been challenging now. Call of Duty hasn't been the best that it has been in decades. But what's a comparable to Call of Duty nowadays in terms of a fast-paced, you know, military action shooter? X Defiant was kind of like one of the few that we've got in recent years. Now, granted, it wasn't great. I mean, it had its pros, but it wasn't, but like it, you run the risk of like you having the one front leader and no one's afraid to challenge. And yeah, X Defiant didn't do enough, but I'm also glad that it happened. At least they tried. But again, like they tried and failed. But like this is kind of like the cycle that like we get into, where it's like you either chase trends and you get a bunch of slop and not being innovative enough, or you don't take the risk and you let the front runner take the lead, but then you're only left with the front runner. And I like having choice in my as a
No,
gamer.
agreed. Like we don't want like having look at Tarkov, right? For the longest time, it was the extraction shooter to play, and they got complacent. They didn't care about the player base, and it was half baked a lot of times. Their updates, and now there are like Arc Raiders, which that's a story for another day. That game is going down to shitter, but games will get complacent if there's nothing challenging them, right? So I agree with you. Although, if you're going to step up to the plate and be a challenger, I need you to be innovative. I need you to be different. I am so sick of these games that come out half baked or with terrible ideas. It just you're just wasting your time. You're just wasting your money. Like no one's going to play this slot.
Bring it back to like 2016 then, like when I don't know how much Overwatch you played when it first came out.
Oh, a lot. Dude, I hit diamond. So I grinded, man.
Do you feel back then as these games were coming out, like Paladin, like did you immediately jump to Paladin to try it because it's the hot new thing? You stayed with the
I stayed with Overwatch because literally at the time it was an Overwatch clone. That was what, word of mouth. Everyone's like, oh, this is an Overwatch clone. Granted, I think at the time Overwatch you had to buy, right? But Paladins was free. So Paladins, what they did differently was just their pricing model, and it clearly worked out at the time because I think they peaked at what, like
really popular.
Yeah, like
I don't know what the numbers were, but I know like as much like and that game was I played it when it did I don't know if they called it a beta or an alpha or a pre-release or type thing, and like it came out right after Overwatch and then it had a full release 2 years later in like 2018. I played both, and at first I thought it, like especially that 2016 version was horrible in comparison to Overwatch. When I finally did a full release, it wasn't too bad. But yeah, to your point, I mean it was the free alternative, and for that time, in a way, that was an innovative model.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I mean it was
But that's
still
about
one
all
of the
they
first
did
of its kind. Yeah,
in terms of innovation back in 2016.
right. Yeah. So it definitely interesting, and for you listeners out there, let us know which hero shooter game you played during the golden era, and then which one you played during the gold rush. I mean, do you still play hero shooters now? Right. We would love to hear back from you guys, and we can discuss. But now, Marco, I do want to jump into the next big question that a lot of people might be asking others or asking themselves. I know we probably have two different views on this, but are hero shooters dead? I would love to hear your opinion, and then I can kind of dive into mine.
I think obviously like the influx is over, right?
Yeah.
Marvel Rivals was kind of a surprise announcement, honestly, for when it was announced, and I think it was announced late 23 or early 24, and coming out later that year.
Yeah.
I think even by that time, Overwatch had already done enough to piss off most of its hardcore fans with the change to Overwatch 2. I mean, granted, the switch to a free-to-play model was great, and it kind of needed to be given what other live service games such as like Fortnite were doing at the time, Apex Legends, etc. Overwatch arguably needed to switch to that free-to-play model, but they made bad changes that didn't agree with the community. Like everybody hated the 5v5 versus 6v6.
Yeah.
Just decision, and like the battle passes versus the loot boxes.
Mm-hmm.
There was a whole debate back in 2017 2018 about loot boxes, like they weren't cool, and then suddenly when they switched to battle passes, they were cool again.
Or the utilization of their lore and their characters, right?
I mean
it was just
failed promises. They promised us, like the whole point of Overwatch 2 was a single player campaign.
Right.
People love these
PvE,
stories so much, and
yeah.
then suddenly PvE modes that didn't happen. Like Blizzard dropped the ball in Overwatch 2.
Oh, yeah.
100%. And
Yeah.
so I think as the market leader started to die, this is kind of where I'm saying it was like, there's opportunity to challenge the market leader, and obviously Marvel Rivals comes out with a strong proposition of, yeah, let's use the most popular intellectual property right now. And I think Rivals really did invigorate the genre,
I think
but
so. Yep.
it is clearly put itself as, I would argue, the new market leader over Overwatch.
I
Now,
think so.
granted,
Hmm.
yeah, and now granted, Overwatch has done a lot in the last few months. I think
They've picked up
Microsoft,
steam.
Activision, Blizzard
Hmm.
have responded to Rivals in a great way, and I would like, outside the intellectual property, I would say Rivals did innovate. Besides just using the characters, I would like, and we could get, go deep into like mechanics. I think they did a lot mechanically to make the game more interesting and more fast paced than an Overwatch. Um, and yeah, so I think we're seeing this reinvigoration now with two clear market leaders, and we could argue even like a game like Deadlock too, that's still hasn't seen a full release. Maybe that, we'll see how that booms in popularity when they do have a full release. I do think we are in maybe a second golden age of hero shooters, but I don't think we see another new influx of games in this genre with such,
Yeah.
seeded potential.
Agreed. I actually agree with that 100%, right? I mean, I would classify Overwatch and Rivals as traditional objective based arena shooters, right? Whereas you mentioned Deadlock, which is a game that you and I played a couple months back. We had a terrible time because it was so hard. We were getting our butts kicked. Marco, you were like, what is going on?
Hey, tell the audience they like. I'm a console player. Deadlock is only on PC, so not only am I getting used to the new game, I have to learn mouse and keyboard. Okay,
yeah,
I was doing my best, but
yeah. Coming from Mr. didn't know what alt tabbing was.
yeah, my Marvel rival skills did not immediately translate to
No,
Deadlock.
but no, I do like how you brought up Deadlock, right? Deadlock is not a traditional hero shooter, but I would classify it as a hero shooter, right? It's like a combination of a hero shooter plus a MOBA. In a way, it's a little like Smite, but not really, right? And it's pretty unique. And we're going to talk about this later when we talk about what companies need to do to reinvigorate the genre. But yeah, no, absolutely love your point on Deadlock. But just
I'm
to
gonna challenge you there, though.
yeah,
You gotta bring it. You gotta bring it back. Battleborn did it first. Battleborn was the first, and it was technically a hero
but
MOBA.
Battleborn was just.
All right, hold on. Let me get out my soapbox real quick, and then I'll let you continue your point. Battleborn was a solid game. Okay. Now, granted, I'll give up that it wasn't as good as Overwatch, but for those who played Battleborn, okay, it had great characters, it had a great art style, it had a single player campaign, it had PvE, it had everything you wanted. Everything you wanted in Overwatch, technically Battleborn had. Now, the gameplay, it was good. It was good. It wasn't as smooth as Overwatch, but in mechanics and in theory, Battleborn had everything. It's kind of like, here's another soapbox. It's kind of like Skype. You remember how everyone was on Skype?
Skype.
And
Okay.
then 2020 happened, and everyone jumped to Zoom, and everyone's like,
Take
"Why
his
are we
mic
all
away.
using Zoom now?"
Take his mic away.
Just say, Battleborn is Skype, and Overwatch was Zoom.
Yeah. And are you gonna go back? Are you going to use Skype right now?
No.
Are you exactly?
Skype died. Skype died. Battleborn died. But I'm just saying, if I was to draw a comparison, it's the same thing. Battleborn had everything you wanted, and I'll say this as the last thing. People know Battleborn was actually pretty decent because in researching for this video, I didn't know there's a Battleborn Reborn project. People brought Battleborn back to life. There's some servers still playing.
Yeah, I mean they do these types of whatever servers for every single video game. Look at Toontown. They have a Toontown like server that they made. Like, no, that's like saying Concord was a good hero shooter game. No, it was terrible.
We'll talk about Concord.
Yeah.
How much time on this video we got? We'll talk about Concord.
Let's talk about Concord right now, right? Like back to our hero shooters dead. Concord was a game, published by Sony, developed by Firewalk Studios, and if you're a gamer, you would probably know about this whole debacle with them. They released and it was terrible, right? Critically terrible response. I think on OpenCritic they hit like, was it like 10%? Something insanely low. And it was just not a good game. They peaked at like 500 players on Steam on release. That is never a good sign. If you are a live service game, multiplayer game, newly released, published by a company like Sony, right? That's never a good sign. That leads me to think, like, I mean, this game came out, what, like 2 years ago? I think the hero shooter genre is dead. Unless a company comes out and reinvigorates the genre, again, which we'll talk about later. But, like, as of right now, other than the big two, which is Overwatch and Rivals, what else is out there? I mean, you can argue, like, Valorant or Apex or Rainbow Six, right? Each and every single one of these are like kind of hero shooter type games, but they arguably all do something different, right? Than the big two. So that's my take.
I mean, I would say I disagree. I think you just named some pretty fairly healthy hero like games, right? Like all of those games. Now, granted, like they're all losing player numbers, but what game hasn't lost player numbers?
Agreed.
Like,
agreed. But they're not. But they are not just hero shooter games. They are hero shooter adjacent. It's like Deadlock. Deadlock is hero shooter adjacent because it's technically a hero shooter plus a MOBA, right?
I mean, absolutely. So arguably, like the failure with Concord, to your point, it didn't do anything innovative.
No.
Per se.
No.
However, I'm going to do a hot take. I'm going to defend Concord a little bit.
You played Concord?
Yeah, I played Concord.
Oh my
God. Concord.
Take his mic. Take his mic. Get his mic out of here.
Look, all right, hear me out. Concord didn't do anything inherently wrong in terms of gameplay. What went wrong with Concord, right, is they had a terrible strategy. First of all, $40 price point in a crowded market, everybody agrees it should have been free to play. That debate has been done to death. Whatever. I won't harp on it. We all know that game should have been free to play. It was dead the minute they announced $40 a game. The other thing that they did in order to monetize the game, which made zero sense, was the whole hook is obviously you want to create these characters and you want a good story. And they had a whole universe. They were eventually going to make a TV show. They had all these plans for this universe.
Like the next Star Wars kind of thing. That's what they were saying.
I mean, but out the gate, outside of the $40, they barely monetized the thing. Like, these games live and die on, like, skins and, obviously the subsequent monetization. How are you going to afford a weekly cutscene, which takes a lot of development time, art direction, writing, storytelling, lighting, like, whatever. How are you going to pump out a weekly cutscene and expect to make your money back? Right? So the monetization was horrible. And, to your point, like we talked about how important characters are. Yeah, I would say like some of the characters could have been like
generic.
Some were they're pretty generic. I will say the animations though, they had great animation.
Yeah, the animation was good. It
was honestly pretty solid. But yeah, I mean like the powers, the abilities were so generic, right?
Yeah.
But the shooting mechanics, so this actually came from, this is their first game, and then they're actually part of a much larger studio, which, we could get into details there, but it came from a lot of ex-Bungie people who worked on Destiny. And having played Concord, like, if you look at them side by side, literally it was just Destiny style shooting mechanics in a hero shooter genre style of gameplay, right? And
Yeah.
I love Destiny gun mechanics. Like the core gun mechanics were actually very good in Concord. It was just the abilities were all generic. Nobody like really stuck out as something new and different. And they just had a terrible monetization scheme.
Well, yeah. I mean, the reported development was like $400 million. That's what the cost was, which gives a word. But
Oh, so I again getting on my soapbox though, that is actually a highly debated number. So
yeah.
the 400 million was actually forget the name of the bigger studio. It was like play something monsters was the bigger studio. They were founded by like ex Bungie guys, and they actually made 3 separate studios,
Mhm.
and they got a whole bunch of private funding, like 200 and the sum of 250 million across the
Jeez.
3 studios. Yeah,
Jeez.
so like
Okay.
that number again, it's all debated, but like basically there's no way Concord actually cost 400 million. Like reportedly it's probably around 50 to 100 million. The 400 million is more so like Sony's upfront cost for purchasing the studio and how they divide the private equity between the 3 studios, cuz Sony only bought one of the 3 studios that was actually spun out. Now granted, the bigger studio never actually has released a game to my knowledge, even across the other 2. There's like one called Battle Barge, and I forget the name of the third studio. But all that to say, like 400 million, 50 million, it was still a colossal failure.
Oh yeah.
Monetarily.
Terrible
And really kind of
game.
shut down Sony's live service ambitions.
Yeah, terrible game. It was a mark of negativity for the hero shooter genre, along with most recently the Imagine Dragons hero shooter game Last Flag, colossal failure. Sorry guys, I love Imagine Dragons, but your game was terrible. Along with games like Realm Royale that try to bring in hero shooter mechanics into the battle royale genre, which failed. Right? I actually played that game.
Just another spin-off of Paladins, wasn't it? Realm Royale
was it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
no, like I'm almost positive it's like Realm Royale is just the
It
Paladins.
is made. It
Battle
is
Royale
developed by
version.
Hi-Rez. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's literally the same.
So-
So like
so-
that whole studio is just
Yeah,
chasing
exactly.
trend.
They chased it with Smite, right? They chased it Paladins. They chased it with Realm Royale. I will say Realm Royale was pretty fun. When I played it, it was pretty fun, but it was not like an Apex, right? Like Apex Legends came out, and that is taking hero like mechanics, putting it into the battle royale genre, and that was a colossal success. Still is, has a healthy player base. But as you can see, right, there are not a lot of big, large standing, like just hero shooter specific type games. I mean, hero shooter adjacent, sure. But let's talk about why they're being successful, why those games are successful, right? And that's what can companies do to reinvigorate the genre. I mean, you said it, you hit it right, you hit it right in the head, man. There are successful hero shooter likes, such as Valorant, right? Such as Rainbow Six Siege. I'm sure there's a lot more that like Deadlock, Apex, etc., whatever. But they all do something unique, right? And they took the chance to innovate and do things differently from Overwatch, from Marvel Rivals.
I mean, if you really think about if you break down what a hero shooter is to brass tacks in terms of, yeah, you have unique characters or unique skill sets, power sets, unique play styles, right? That's a template that you could almost bring into any genre. Like, tell me why you couldn't do that in like a battle racing game, like an old like Burnout or like a Full Auto, right? You could make a hero shooter car racing game. You could make a hero shooter like Pokemon could be a hero shooter, like in a way.
Dude,
Like,
that's what I was
right?
saying.
Like,
we need a Marvel Rivals Pokemon game. That's what we need. That's exactly what we need to reinvigorate the genre. I mean, talk about two just a mashup of games, I think that would be insane.
Hey, if any developer wants it, I'm chock full of gaming ideas, but like it's a template that can literally lend itself, and that's why I love hero shooters, honestly, because I think, we get attached to characters, we get attached to our own unique play styles, and it lends itself to experimentation, and I feel like the template of what a hero shooter is can truly lend itself to pretty much any genre, right? Like if you just think of it creatively, like there's room for that hero shooter template to be applied. Now, granted, it doesn't always work out, and for example, and you have to think of like, what are you applying it to, and how would the fan base react? A poor example of that, case in point, is EA's Battlefield. Battlefield 6, right, is now somewhat dying in popularity, but returned to its roots, has had a very healthy player numbers, very good game because it was like a classic Battlefield, which is what the fans wanted. Battlefield 2042, right before it, kind of in a way applied some of the hero shooter, you know, unique uh, unique characters, unique gadgets for each character, and like they got rid of their class system, and the whole fan base, like, you know, basically was up in arms against EA and Dice for making Battlefield more like hero like. I mean, granted that game had numerous other problems, not just that, but like the specialist system, which in a way is kind of like Heroes, very much was kind of a big downfall of it. And so like they tried it and they tried applying, but they applied it very haphazardly and it didn't work out. So it's another double-edged sword, but the template itself, I think, is a good one and is engaging for players.
No, I agree with that. I mean, that the template is there, right? It's just, are these companies using it correctly, right? They're being handed, I would say they're being handed the shovel to the gold mine, right? We talked about the golden era and the gold rush, right? I don't think the gold rush has really left yet. I mean, sure, there's a little less gold to go around, but I think if you have the shovel, right, and you go about it the correct way, you can create something much better, right? Something unique, something that stands out and can be successful and take a slice of the pie in the gaming market. Um,
I
awesome.
guess my question for you, and like we didn't mention the other big failure of this year,
Mm-hmm.
which was a hero shooter, which was High Guard.
Oh God.
And
Oh.
you can't have a video on hero shooters and not talk about High Guard. And like we just ripped on Concord. You got to talk about High Guard.
Oh,
Now
jeez. Okay.
I'll get on my soapbox a little bit. I thought, in theory, High Guard was actually pretty innovative. Now in
No.
execution, yeah, hold on. Let me cook. Let me cook. So, High Guard, in theory, was pretty innovative in the sense that, okay, fine, hero-based template, Apex Legends style gameplay. Everybody, who I've talked to who's played Apex Legends, like they love the movement, they love the combat, the shooting mechanics. People swear by Respawn's shooting style and shooting mechanics from like Titanfall and Apex Legends. So it had all that, and I thought it had a pretty interesting like base mechanic where you're going around, you're looting to then go attack this other base, and it's kind of like this. They call it the siege mechanic, right? Not many other games were doing that sort of thing. It was fairly novel, but where that game failed is obviously you can't control public reception. It got immediately jumped off the rip because it was the last game at the Game Awards at the Jeff Keighley show.
Yeah, that was
Which
the big debacle,
that
right?
was that was the big debacle, which for whatever reason killed it. Like, who could have anticipated that? Well, some people say like, of course you could have anticipated because it's not a big enough game, and people hold the last game of the showcase like in the highest of pedestals. So that immediately killed the game. But I in execution, like that team, they got all that negative feedback for being the last game of the show, and then they didn't show the game for like 2 months. And then suddenly the day it comes out, it's like, oh, we're gonna live stream and show us what the game looks like. Way to immediately kill all hype you had for that game, and B, the theory was great, but like you're gonna launch with a 3v3 game mode in this
That's the
giant
thing.
map.
Yeah.
And that game's been cooking for like apparently like 6-7 years. Again, we know games are taking long to make, but like, who playtested this that you're doing 3v3 in this giant map?
They actually pivoted because initially this game was it was supposed to be like a Rust-like game. Are you familiar with Rust?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was supposed to be in that same vein of genre, but then they pivoted 3 or 4 years into development. So I think that's why it seems so half-baked, and like they had these cool ideas, right? The map was so large probably because it was supposed to be a Rust type game, and then they just didn't know what to do with it. Like you said, poor execution, right?
They quickly pivoted to 5v5, and honestly, I played the 5v5 quite a bit, and it wasn't too bad. Like, as soon as they went to 5, I'm like, okay, this is a much better game immediately, but by then, it was like too little too late. They like already killed all hype, and just like, again, the shooting was great, the guns were okay, the looting was almost pointless. There was barely enough like different types of loot. So like all the ideas were there, the mechanics were there, just like not enough content.
And you still say like, that's okay?
I'm just saying, like, look,
yeah,
I try
listen,
to look
listen,
at
man. The sponsors would love you, man. All these game sponsors would be like, let's get Marco to play our games because he's gonna say, even if it's a terrible game, he is going to say it is okay.
Look, I'm happy to stream it to my, on Twitch to my 0 viewers, but I bet anything up. Look, I could see the good in like there was a lot of good there. I wouldn't go as far as say Hi-Rez was a good game, but definitely had good ideas. The mechanics were solid. They just made stupid decisions along the way, or like not playtest, and they rushed that thing out. Like, why did that game need to come out 2 months after? Like, it's coming out in January. Like, no, let it cook. Like, have some sort of marketing. Like, they released it with no marketing. No Twitch. Like, they gave it to a couple Twitch streamers, like, the day of, a couple days before. And yeah, just immediately, to no avail.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Listen,
I
was mid-yap. I was mid-yap.
We're gonna cut that piece out because you're muted for like a whole minute.
Listen. It is like I was just saying that I'm going to have to respectfully disagree with you because that game was so half-baked. I would say it's not even half-baked. It wasn't even to that point. It was generic. And I couldn't.
It was half-baked, but they had a good recipe.
I mean, you can say that about every game, man.
What a good pie crust was, but they just like it got flat, like.
Yeah, well,
they had a good recipe, good ingredients.
I can't eat the good recipe if they half bake the pie. All right, so yeah, I'll leave it I'll leave it at that. But yeah. With that said, though, Marco, we're coming up on time. I think we can safely agree, and maybe our listeners can chime in here. But the big two right now, Overwatch and Marvel Rivals, both still going very, very strong in this genre. Some companies are trying to follow the coattails and are not exactly hitting the mark, but we do agree that there's potential there, right? I mean, some of these companies, they are stepping up to the plate and maybe trying to swing for the fences. They're not quite hitting the mark, but maybe one day we'll get that Pokemon hero shooter game that will be the, a good game.
Look, Marvel Rivals and Overwatch has made each other better. I think they're both pushing each other in a better direction, and we're getting better games because of it. And yeah, to your point, I don't think hero shooters are dead. I think there's still room, and why not have a third entrant into that market? And then I get to play DPS across three different games, and people can yell at me for no heals,
Yeah, but the only thing is, a Pokemon hero shooter, you can't sell Gunner skins, unfortunately. So I don't think that's going to happen.
No, that's weird. Have you seen Gardevoir and Low Punny?
No. Jeez.
Somebody will make that.
Hey, take his mic away. Take his mic away.
You can take the mic away.
But jokes aside, guys, you know, Marco and I, we really had a lot of fun just planning a video like this. Hopefully, you guys enjoy this type of content. So please drop a like and, you know, subscribe, follow, whichever platform you guys are on. Marco went through and created a whole bunch of social links for us as well. So it'll be down in the description. Make sure to follow. But yeah, we truly appreciate you taking time to listen to us yap and just, you know, be silly. I mean, we're gamers just like you guys. So
Yeah, and let us know what hero shooters you guys are playing. What role do you play? What do you like about the genre? What don't you like? And where do you see the future of it going? We'd love to engage with you in the comments.
absolutely, and also lastly, let us know your favorite Emma Frost skin.
The new one coming out this week, that beach skin, day one.